Oh, how's it going, everybody? We're back for another edition of All In, where I'll pick a rock artist and I'll listen to the entire discography and give my thoughts on it. So the rules kind of go like this. The band in question must have 5 or more original studio albums. Cover albums can count. Generally, I don't talk about live or acoustic albums unless there's tracks original to the form. So, here we go. So, yeah, in case you didn't see by the title of the video, we're doing a big legend in heavy metal. We're doing Megadeth. That's right. So, you got Dave Mustaine and company, who they started off, at least with their discography, it ranges from Killing Is My Business and Business Is Good back in 1985, all the way to The Sick, The Dying, and The Dead, and they totaled out to 16 original studio albums. I mean, very impressive, and they're still active, still out there touring. But before we really get into this, we can't talk about Megadeth without mentioning Metallica. So, those of you, if you know your rock and your metal history, you know that Dave Mustaine was a part of Metallica way back in their early beginning. And, of course, gotta mention this album, Kill 'Em All. So he actually has credit for writing 4 of the songs on this album. And then, shortly thereafter, he gets kicked out of the band. So we're talking like 83 at that point, he gets kicked out. Of course, Metallica, they move on without him, with James taking over the mic for the vocals. And, of course, they were putting out more of their albums in the 80s. Meanwhile, we get Megadeth. So, starting in 85, we get Killing Is My Business and Business Is Good. Right here, the first album. I don't believe this is the original cover. This is a remaster of it. But we start off with Last Rites, Love You to Death, or Love to Death. And you got Killing Is My Business, Business Is Good, the title track. Skull Me Beneath My Skin, Rattlehead, Chosen Ones, Looking Down the Cross, Mechanics, and These Boots, which is actually a cover. Who was that originally? So that was originally a Nancy Sinatra song that they covered. Kind of an oddity there. And of course, with this edition here, you get like 3 bonus tracks that are demos. But yeah, really good debut here. They were kind of in their underground stage at this point. This is an album that I didn't come back to until like way later, probably 20 years after this came out. I didn't discover this till then, so not bad at all. We move on to 1986. The very next year, we have Peace Sells, But Who's Buying? And this is where I think they really started to hit their stride in this one. And of course, this album here populated their very first music video, which they actually beat Metallica to doing. Like, Metallica didn't have their first video till 1, which is in 88. They did it here in 86 with the title track, Peace Sells. So, here we start off with Wake Up Dead, really good beginner track. You got The Conjuring, Peace Sells, Devil's Island, that's a good one, Good Morning, Black Friday, Bad Omen, I Ain't Superstitious, and My Last Words. And then, of course, you got some different mixes on the bonus tracks here. So, another remaster. This is another one that I kind of stepped back and discovered. But yeah, I feel like they were starting to take off a little bit there. So then, we move on to 1988's So Far, So Good, So What? Now, I remember hearing this one in middle school. A friend of mine, his name was Jesse, he kind of got me into this album a little bit. I feel like they sort of went back to the more raw underground sound on this one a little more. But you start off with the instrumental, The Lungs of Hell, or Into the Lungs of Hell, Set the World Afire. Then they cover Anarchy in the UK by the Sex Pistols. Then you have Mary Jane. And then you have 502, which is basically almost like a cop chase / crash song. You got In My Darkest Hour, Liar, and then we end it with Hook and Mouth. And, not a bad album. I would say this was my introduction to 80s Megadeth here, so some nostalgia behind it for, Not bad. I didn't get the remaster version of it, though. I just have, like, the regular 8 tracks to it, so... So that's your 80s Megadeth. Covering the 90s, we have Rust in Peace. And here we start off with Holy Wars of Punishment Due, Hangar 18, Take No Prisoners, Take No Shit, Five Magics, Prison of the Cure, Lucreta, Tornado of Souls, that's a good one, Dawn Patrol, and then title track Rest in Peace, Polaris. And then, of course, here you get the bonuses, and there's a song on there called My Creation, which I believe it was like a complete... It was a complete song that just never made the cut until now, I guess. And of course, you got 3 demos after that. But this is where I think they really started to take off. And in the 90s, I almost feel like they were sort of taking the same path as Pantera a little bit. You know, like, all the glam bands were starting to phase out by this point, but then you got bands like Pantera and Megadeth really starting to take off. It was kind of like an oddity here. So, and they weren't really considered, they weren't really hair band, they weren't really grunge, more so thrash, I guess. Okay, so here's one that I've been listening to since probably the beginning. We have Countdown to Extinction, and I forgot to state my first time I've ever heard Megadeth, and it's definitely from this album. I remember hearing Sweating Bullets on the radio and thinking, like, man, that's some heavy shit, you know. I'm thinking this is like a 12 or 13-year-old by this point. So, yeah, that was their current material by that time, but here we start off with Skin in My Teeth, Symphony of Destruction. Really good song, really popular. Probably the most popular song at that point. You got Architecture of Aggression. I hope I said that right. For Closure of a Dream, Sweating Bullets. Love that song. You got This Was My Life, Countdown to Extinction, the title track. Real good track. High Speed Dirt, Psychotron, Captive of Honor. I like that one. And then Ashes in Your Mouth. And always with the cool artwork. Love it. And no, this is not a remaster. This is just your originals. So, yeah, that was one that I purchased before they remastered everything. So then, moving on to 1994, we have Euthanasia. And this shirt that you see me wearing here was from that very tour. Now, kind of a little side story behind how I got that shirt. So, my mom used to work with a doctor who would help out on the stage crews at Hershey, and he always had all kinds of free shirts that he had to wear during like the stage setups. And I bet you I got probably like 15 or 20 shirts from him that were from like a lot of these bands. Like the guy wasn't really into these heavy metal and rock bands, so he was just kind of giving those shirts away. But yeah, this shirt here was from the Euthanasia tour, so probably around 94, 95 is when this shirt came out. And it's like a special edition, you know, stage crew shirt. You can't get it anywhere else. But getting back to the albums, so like I said, Euthanasia, 1994. We got Reckoning Day, Train of Consequences, which I remember hearing that one played on the radio. Addicted to Chaos, La Tete Monday, which I remember that one being played a lot too. Elyptian Fields, The Killing Road, Blood of Heroes, that's a good one. Family Tree, title track Euthanasia, I Thought I Knew It All, Black Curtains, and Victory. And yeah, I did get a remaster, but this one does not include any bonuses to it, so... Oh no, not a bad album. Honestly, I think it was underrated. But yeah, like, first 10 years of Megadeth, man, can't go wrong. Though this is not an actual true original album, I'm going to mention it anyway. You got Hidden Treasures, which they released it in 1995. It's like a compilation of, like, you know, the rarities, the B-sides, the soundtracks, and whatnot. So, in this little compilation, you have No More Mr. Nice Guy, which was originally Alice Cooper. They covered that. Then you have Breakpoint, Go to Hell, Angry Again, which I believe Angry Again was on the Last Action Hero soundtrack, where you could also find Big Gun by AC/DC on that album. You could also find, I think it's Who the Hell Have I by Alice in Chains. There was a few good songs on that soundtrack. But yeah, Angry Again would be like the known song from these guys. Then you have a real popular one, 99 Ways to Die, which that one originally appeared on the Beavis and Butthead Experience. Damn good track, one of my favorites. And then, of course, you got Paranoid, which was Black Sabbath. And I do got to give honorable mention to this album. That Paranoid is on this, too. So yeah, they came out with like 2 tribute albums to Black Sabbath. This is Nativity in Black 1, which does feature Paranoid. That's where it originally came from. This actually came out in '94. So they were definitely influenced by Black Sabbath for sure. And then you got Diadems, and then we end it with Problems, which was a Sex Pistols cover. So yeah, if you like the rare stuff that they did, definitely a good compilation, spanning from probably the late '80s until like '95, at least to this point here in their career. But yeah, definitely a good one. So now we move on to 1997's Cryptic Writings. And I feel like this is where they got more commercially accepted. And by this point in time, Metallica had released Load and Reload. So this is kind of competing against that at that point. But here we start off with Trust. Very popular song. Almost Honest. Use the Man. All 3 of those very popular. You got Mastermind. I like that one too. The Discgraters. I'll Get Even. Sin. Secret Place, which was real good. What does it say? Have Cool Will Travel. She-Wolf. Vortex. And Triple F. And though I liked most of the album, I mean, I feel like they slumped a little bit in this one. They kind of mellowed out a little bit, but all in all, not bad. I like it. And notice like some of the later releases did like a black cover instead. So then, moving on, we have 1999's Risk. And this is where I sort of started falling off with listening to them. So we got Insomnia, Prince of Darkness. Of course, Enter the Arena, which was the intro to Crush 'Em. That would be the big song to this. Then you got Breadline, The Doctor is Calling, I'll Be There, Wonderlust, Ecstasy, 7, and then you got Time the Beginning and Time the End. And I remember I bought this after it released, and I was honestly sort of disappointed. It's been, like Cryptic Writings was way better than this, but I did like Insomnia. That wasn't a bad song. Crush 'Em was a little bit corny, but I get it. It's like a wrestling theme. Wasn't a fan of Breadline. I did like Time the Beginning and Time the End. I did like those tracks. And of course, back in the day, bring enhanced CD. You get cool features. But as far as Megadeth goes, to me that would have been their worst album to this point. I wasn't a fan of it. It was one of those that I listened to it maybe twice and then shelved it. Or maybe I'd pop it in and listen to a couple of good tracks that are on it. And then I didn't listen to it again until like recently when I did this all in. So we got to give honorable mention to Megadeth's Greatest Hits. Because, as they always do in Greatest Hits compilations, they'll include at least one new track, maybe 2, maybe 3, who knows. But here we have Killed King. And honestly, damn good song. I love it. 98 Rock out of Baltimore had it in heavy rotation when it came out. But it's got like all the greatest songs that they did up to that point, spanning their entire career from like 85 up to 2000 at this point. So definitely a good compilation if you want to get started on Megadeth. So then we move on to, what is it? 2001's The World Needs a Hero. So, again, this one was sort of hit or miss. I liked it better than Risk. I would say it was about the same as Cryptic Writings as far as how I liked it. But here we have Disconnect, The World Needs a Hero, Moto Psycho, I do like that song, 1,000 Times Goodbye, Burning Bridges, Promises, Recipe for Hate, Warhorse, like that one too, Losing My Senses, Dread and Fugitive Mind, I like that one too, Silent Scorn, Return to the Hangar, which I'm guessing that's like a sequel to Hangar 18, and then you have When, always with the cool artwork, love it, but not as good as 80s Megadeth, but I liked it better than Risk. So it's sort of a little bit of a bounce back, I think. And since we're sort of in that same time period, I do got to give honorable mention to Nativity in Black 2, just for the simple fact that Megadeth did a cover. Oh, where was it? They did a cover of Never Say Die, and it's pretty good too. I liked it. So moving on, 2004, we have The System Has Failed, and this album, almost like Risk, I wasn't really a fan. And even like going back listening to it all today, wasn't really too much into it. I mean, it had a couple good songs to it, but anyhow, so we have Blackmail the Universe, Die Dead Enough, Kick the Chair, that's actually a good song, The Scorpion, Tears in the Vow, I Know Jack, Back in the Day, Bring! We got Something That I'm Not, Truth Be Told, Of Mice and Men, Shadow of Death, and My Kingdom. And like I said, I just wasn't feeling it on this one. I remember, I forget what song it was, but I remember hearing them like start to play some of it on the radio. It might have been Of Mice and Men, but I remember like hearing it on the radio and thinking like, yeah, I know I'm not feeling this. And I haven't bought a physical copy of Megadeth since. But moving on, 2007, we have United Abominations. Now this one I already did have on download, and I remember hearing a lot of it on like Serious Heart Attack and Octane and them channels at that time. And I feel like in this album it was sort of a turning point back to their old roots. I like it. I like it. So we start off with Sleepwalker, and yes, I remember hearing that on Sirius. We have Washington Is Next, very political. We have Never Walk Alone, A Call to Arms, good one there. United Abominations, Gears of War, definitely a good tune there. Blessed Are the Dead, Play for Blood, and then they actually did another version of Il Monte, which featuring Lacuna Coil's lead singer, Christina Scavia. So they sort of like rehashed it with her involved. And it actually was a pretty good remake of it, or a redo, whatever you call it. But they had that in heavy rotation on Octane. You got Americas Fan. You have You're Dead, and we end it with Burnt Ice. And as far as comparing it to the last three albums, it was awesome. I like it. I recommend it. So now moving along, still in the 2000s, we have Endgame from 2009. And I wasn't really following them too heavily at this point. Maybe I hear a song here or there, but like I never really fully followed them too much until recently. So we have Diabolic Chaos instrumental. We have The Day We Fight, 44 minutes, 13:20, Bite the Hand, Bodies, and then you got the title track Endgame, which was pretty good. The Hardest Part of Letting Go, Sealed with a Kiss. You got Head Crusher, How the Story Ends, and then you have The Right to Go Insane. And not a bad album at all. Very heavy. And I didn't like it as much as United Abominations, but it was sort of a carryover from it. So So yeah, I liked it. I recommend it. So now we're in the 2010s. We can move on to 2011's 13. Now, there could be some confusion here because Black Sabbath also released an album called 13. But what we have here is Sudden Death, Public Enemy Number 1. And that I like that one. You got Whose Life Is It Anyways, We the People, Guns, Drugs, and Money, Never Dead, New World Order, Fast Lane, Black Swan, Wrecker, Millennium of the Blind, Deadly Nightside, and 13, which they have it titled as the number, which is also track 13. How appropriate. But here again, I liked it. And I'm amazed how active they stayed over all these years. As we're about to go on here, we have Super Collider 2013. And again, very cool album art. So here we have Kingmaker, Super Collider, Burn, Built for War, Off the Edge, Dance in the Rain, featuring David Draymond. We have Beginning of Sorrow, The Blackest Crow, Forget to Remember, Don't Turn Your Back, and Cold Sweat, which was a Thin Lizzy cover. And yeah, I liked Kingmaker and Super Collider. They were both pretty good songs on this. But here again, like 13 and Super Collider and even Dystopia, I need to listen to them a little bit more and sort of get like more, more acquainted with them. So then we move on to 2016's Dystopia. So in this one, we have The Threat Is Real, the title track Dystopia, Fatal Illusion, Death from Within, Bullet to the Brain, Post-American World, Poisonous Shadows, Conquer or Die, Lying in State, The Emperor, and they end it with Foreign Policy, which was a cover by the band Fear. Fear was like an early 80s punk band. They also covered the song I Don't Care About You that Guns N' Roses did. Or I Don't Care About You was their song that Guns N' Roses covered, I should say. And then if you get the Japanese bonus edition, you get a song called Me Hate You, along with all that. So, and I feel like here they kind of stayed in the same form that they have the last couple albums there. And then they took a nice, long, well-deserved break from the studio. And then come out in 2022 with The Sick, the Dying, and the Dead. And I was sort of waiting on this to release, because, I don't know, there's not many new rock bands coming out. And so, I find myself kind of reverting back to the old bands that are still around. You know, I guess the same could be said for, Ace Frehley and 10,000 Volts. I love that album, but I never really paid attention to his stuff before that. This is kind of like the same deal here. Right out of the gate, good stuff here. And if this is the last album they ever do, they definitely went out on top. So, we have The Sick, the Dying, and the Dead, Life in Hell, Night Stalkers with Ice-T from Body Count. Great song there. You got Dogs of Chernobyl, Sacrifice, Junkie, Psychopathy. I said that right. Killing Time, Soldier On, Celebante, Mission to Mars, and We'll Be Back. And then, if you got the bonus edition, you got a cover of Police Truck by the Dead Kennedys. And then we also have the song Planets on Fire, Burn in Hell, featuring Sammy Hagar. And what a damn good collab they did there. I love that. Yeah, so The Sick, the Dying, and the Dead, definitely recommend it. I mean, so far I like it better than all the stuff they did throughout the 2010s. But I do got to give an honorable mention to a one-off they did right after that. They did a cover of Delivering the Goods by Judas Priest. And it was an Amazon exclusive. So that's kind of what we're up to now, and I'm not sure if we're going to get any new material from them anytime soon. We'll have to see. But I never had any concert experiences with them. I wish I did, but no, I never got to see them live. They're one of the few big bands like this I never got to see live. GMC, however, got to see them with Five Finger Death Punch, and they had Five Finger Death Punch as the lead act, and basically Megadeth opening up for them, which I'm sure like there's different opinions on this, but like I know a lot of the people from like the '80s and maybe like early '90s crowd would have to say like Megadeth should have opened up for Five Finger Death Punch, or Five Finger Death Punch should have been opened up for Megadeth. That's kind of how I feel about it. I think Megadeth as a whole is a bigger band than Five Finger Death Punch is. But maybe it's more about like relevance too. I don't know. But yeah, Megadeth as a whole discography, I enjoyed it. Like especially like listening through the '80s and the '90s Megadeth. It was like a time warp. I absolutely enjoyed it. So ratings. How do we want to split this off? Got a lot of shit here to do. So for sure we're going to do 80s Megadeth. We're going to do 90s Megadeth. We're going to do 2000s Megadeth. And we're going to do... We only had one in the 2020s, so we're going to do 2010s to now Megadeth. So let's see. Moving back to the 80s Megadeth. Peace Sells, hands down, my favorite. And then Killing Is My Business, but Business Is Good, least favorite. And no, I didn't hate it. It was a pretty good album, but still sort of had that raw underground feel. They were sort of, getting their foot in the door here. And then 90s Megadeth. Let's see here. I'm going to say my favorite, Countdown to Extinction. Love that album. Love every track on it. Although Rust in Peace and Euthanasia were a close second and third. As far as my least favorite, Risk. Didn't like it. Didn't care for it. And then moving on to the 2000s era of Megadeth. Let's see here. I'm going to say my favorite, United Abominations. And I feel like they really bounced back from like 3 mediocre to bad albums. So definitely recommend United Abominations. Least favorite, The System Has Failed. In my mind, the album has failed. I don't know, I couldn't get into it. So, moving on to the last era of Megadeth. Moving on to 2010s to now. I didn't hate any of these, but I'm going to say my favorite is definitely The Sick, The Dying, and The Dead. And my least favorite, I don't know, probably 13. But yeah, all in all, not a bad discography at all. Now, what was my all-time favorite album out of all this? I don't know. I'm going to say it's a pretty close tie between Peace Sells and Countdown to Extinction. My least favorite of all this list, probably, I would say a close tie between Risk and The System Has Failed. So, there you have it. That's my thoughts on the entire discography of Megadeth. And it is worth noting that, Dave had a real hatred towards Metallica, especially during the first 10 years of Megadeth's career. And the first time they ever shared a stage was at Woodstock 94. And then here in recent years, they started to do the Big Four tour, which involved, of course, Metallica, Megadeth, Slayer, and Anthrax. So, in a way, they did sort of bury the hatchet and move on. But it always seemed like every time Megadeth released an album or anything, Metallica would one-up them. Like, throughout the, the 80s and 90s. But yeah, so Hope you guys enjoyed this All In featuring Megadeth. And next video, we're going to be moving on to another very big and legendary band. Not in the metal world, but more so in the 90s alternative pop-punk era. And it's a band that they're still around today, so yeah, find out who it is. We'll see ya.